Hey, it's Mr. Spencer. We're going to have a little tea party. It's chapter 5 of The Great Gatsby. What is going to happen here? Is Gatsby just using Nick to get Daisy? Here in chapter 5, because The Great Gatsby is 9 chapters long, notice, because we're in chapter 5, that means we've arrived in the exact middle of the story. Thus, it makes sense that this chapter takes a single event, Daisy and Gatsby's perfectly romantic reunion, and uses it to both tie together everything that's been set up so far and also to create such a delicate balance of safety and happiness that it's clear that everything will soon crumble. But before the bubble of love pops, enjoy the world's most magical, most carefully planned accidental date. Will things be smooth and romantic or cringy and awkward? Chapter 5 in detail. Nick comes home to find all the lights on in Gatsby's mansion. Gatsby wants to hang out, but clearly only because he wants to know what Nick has decided about asking Daisy for tea. Remember, on page 52, Gatsby had talked privately to Jordan and persuaded Jordan to ask Nick to ask Daisy over to tea. You with this? Nick is happy to do it, and they plan for a day after that Gatsby's had a chance to get Nick's lawn cut. Not too shabby, Nick. The house you got has not been kept up well. Focus, Nick. Gatsby then makes a totally out of place proposal to do some bond business with Nick, whose job is selling bonds and who doesn't seem particularly good at it or invested in it. Trying to get on Wall Street? Not working so good, Nick. Nick's uncomfortable about the deal and the quid pro quo, which is a Latin term meaning something for something, or tit for tat, or you do this favor for me, Nick, and I'll scratch your back. In other words, a transaction. Nick's uncomfortable feeling makes him decline respectfully Gatsby's deal. So the next day, Nick does invite Daisy to tea, and he cautions her not to bring Tom. When she does show up, she says, Tom? Tom who? I like this. Sassy Daisy. Anyway, Gatsby, though, he sends someone to mow the lawn, orders a huge number of flowers. He isn't thrilled with Nick's sad tea and cake selection for this little tea party, and he worries that the day will be ruined because it's raining. He's nervous. Nick thinks maybe some more flowers? Cheeky Nick. He then freaks out, Gatsby does, at the last second that Daisy's not coming, but just then she pulls up in her car. Gatsby and Daisy meet in Nick's living room in the most awkward, strained, and tense scene imaginable. It's not all sunshine and roses. And it's unclear whether either one is happy to see the other. They are unable to speak 2 words. When Nick tries to leave them alone, Gatsby panics and tries to leave also. Nick calms him down. And then he stands outside like a trooper in the rain for an hour to give Gatsby and Daisy some privacy. When Nick returns, the two are totally different, no longer embarrassed, much calmer, and Gatsby's actually glowing. What were they doing for that hour? Gatsby suddenly brags that it only took him 3 years to earn the money to buy his mansion. Nick calls him out on this, since earlier Gatsby had said in chapter 4 he had inherited his wealth. Gatsby quickly says no, the inheritance was lost in the financial panic of 1914 and that he's been in several businesses since then. Daisy then exclaims that she loves Gatsby's giant mansion. She can see it out of Nick's window. So they go over to Gatsby's and he shows them around the now empty house, never taking his eyes off Daisy and her reaction to things. Gatsby is completely overwhelmed by Daisy's presence. They tour his house and he's overcome with feelings that he can't even put into words. Gatsby opens a cabinet, starts pulling out piles of shirts and throwing them out onto a table. Every kind of shirt color and pattern imaginable stack higher and higher on this table until Daisy puts her head into the shirts and starts to cry about their beauty. She artificially says, remember, because Nick is watching, it makes me sad on page 92 because I've never seen such beautiful shirts before. Is that why she's sad? Starts raining again, and Gatsby shows Daisy that her house is directly across the bay from his. What a coincidence. Nick sees a photograph of a boat captain named Dan Cody, who says that Gatsby used to be his best friend until Mr. Dan Cody died. Remember this for later. Gatsby shows Daisy a bunch of newspaper clippings about her that he's been collecting, creepy or romantic. She would have been featured in the gossip pages that describe fancy parties in rich people's society. He gets a phone call about Detroit. Business deal? Gangster activity? But he hangs up quickly. This is the first time that he has not excused himself to take a call in the novel. Nick is the third wheel, though, on this romantic bicycle. Poor Nick. He's just standing there trying to be a good buddy. But Nick tries to leave again and is roped in to staying by Gatsby. Gatsby asked Ewing Klipspringer, a guest who's apparently just always at the house, to play piano for them. He plays a comical love song. And Nick finally says goodbye, and at the end of chapter 5 leaves. As he does, he sees Daisy whisper in Gatsby's ear, and he imagines that her siren-like voice holds him. He narrates, "They had forgotten me, but Daisy glanced up and held out her hand. Gatsby didn't know me now at all. I looked once more at them, and they looked back at me remotely, possessed by intense life. Then I went out of the room and down the marble steps into the rain, leaving them there together." How romantic. That's my summary of chapter 5. In the next video, we'll take a look at chapter 6. Are we going to have some more parties, or are we going to get on a boat? This is Mr. Spencer, signing off.